Natasha are joining us, but they can see you and
We just can't see them.
yeah. Why is it,
Probably
looks
better
like
that way.
the owl video isn't working. It should be panning. Natasha. for joining us, but- So.
Good to go? All right. Let's call the Wabasha Port Authority and Development Agency meeting to order for April 26th. New start time 5:30. First item on the agenda is roll call. Since we're video, we should probably do that, huh? Sure. It doesn't matter.
Just everyone's in person, so we're good.
We're good?
Yeah, it's just, we'll just note that
Mary's
Mary's
absent.
absent. Okay.
Any changes or additions to the agenda?
Yeah. I'd like to go over item 3, 4, and 6. If we can pull those out.
Consent agenda?
Yeah. Does that include Bolton and me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's the same thing I was.
Okay.
All right, so,
We're pulling the Bolton and Mink invoices and also the Port Authority financials.
Yeah.
Okay,
3, 4, and 6.
okay.
and let's just move those to, I suppose we'll push them all the way down to 5.8, huh? Can we do that?
5.9.
5.8, sorry.
Yeah, if we want to take them, right after barge terminal costs, because that's
Yeah,
sort of related. Okay.
that works. All right. No other changes or additions to the consent agenda? Hearing none, a motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So now we have the consent agenda, which entails the minutes from February. Oh, we didn't have a March meeting, right? February financials. And a Bolton and Mink invoice. So 3, 4, and 5 you wanted to pull?
3, 4, and 6.
3, 4, and 6. Sorry. So CETA second quarter and Flaherty and Hood invoice. So those items for the consent agenda. Motion to approve.
Make that motion.
Got a first and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Old business, which is the emergency loan program update. That is you, Tyler.
Yep, update on the emergency loan payments. April payments were due Friday, April 15th. Lark Toys has been paid in full for quite some time. Hobie came in a couple weeks ago and made 4 payments to get theirs completely closed out, so Hobie is completely paid in full. Riverboat Lanes is set up for automatic electronic payments, so nothing to worry about there. And Front Porch has been making regular payments last couple months, so questions or comments, I think we're in good shape on that.
Mayor, would you like to join us up here? We have Councilman Sulla is as well, so might as well. Do we need a motion to approve, or is this kind of an
I
advisory?
think it's mostly just an information.
Yeah. We'll go with that. Maybe. So next up is the child care grant program. Caroline or?
Yep, we kind of divided up the items.
Okay.
So, the city dedicated, 15,000 of its funding that it got through ARPA, which is just a grant that we got from the federal government for kind of COVID relief activities. And so what we're hoping to propose to do is to do small grants for existing providers. And then Kathy has a note on the perhaps saving future levy funds in the budget for a $50,000 grant for a future center if one comes along. And I think she's proposing to kind of save that over time, to start saving now and setting aside that money in case we get a future childcare center proposal. Kathy has proposed a deferred loan that's forgiven after 2 years if they stay in business. Personally, I'm also okay if it's just a grant, just given a small amount of funding that's there. But I think the idea of a forgivable was to kind of ensure that they stay in business. So, and it's for actual expenses only. I think it modeled the program that Mayor Duran and member Con Walters put together already. And so, yeah, it's about just continuing to ensure that our existing childcare businesses stay in business and can cover costs, because we know that they operate on a pretty thin margin, and we just want to continue to make sure they stay in business while planning for the future. So in terms of saving the $50,000, $10,000 per year, I think that's money that we could definitely set aside, $10,000 a year for a future childcare center if we start saving now. So I think that part's feasible. And maybe the 15,000 that we set aside isn't going to be 100% utilized, but with the ARPA money, we have to expend that within 3 years. So we really couldn't wait for 5 years for a childcare center to start. So,
What about the new center, the $1.82 million?
I don't think that is here yet, but there is somebody talking about it. So I think, yeah, we don't necessarily have the proposal in front of us, but that's where Kathy's thinking we're setting aside 10,000 a year to fund like a really big project. So I'm sorry, it is sometimes a little tricky for me to present on Kathy's notes, but I know that you were a part of it, so I don't know how much of this you kind of see the program that you and Con set up, and what's proposed here.
Well, this is a lot better than what we proposed.
Okay.
To be totally honest.
Yeah,
You know, we went small because we knew that that came out of our earliest work convening a childcare group locally, just almost 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And the consultants were very clear that a $2,000 grant would make a huge difference for income providers, and that's what we have in our community, is income providers, as well as our surrounding Kellogg and Reed's Landing providers. So we don't have a center model, so their advice to us was work with what you have and make sure you support that business model. So that was what I can't remember if we proposed 2,025, and it was a long time ago. But
It wasn't more than 20.
yeah, it was definitely not 3. And in talking to the providers that really exist here in our doing business, that was a meaningful amount, which our consultant said, of course it is. I told you that they need all kinds of things from fire doors to, youth play equipment all the time. I think that was pre-COVID, that a $2,500 wouldn't make sense. Now we're post-COVID, where a lot of those businesses lost children for a period of time and held those spots open. So
Mhm.
went without pay for certain children, went through all the additional costs that COVID required of them. All their supplies, everything that they provide for their childcare business has inflated in cost too. So I haven't talked with Kathy about the $50,000 amount. I just would be curious if that would be flexible too, like either the 50,000 for a larger center, or if two smaller multiple smaller centers. Wanted a smaller amount,
Mhm.
if that would be something that would be feasible, because we just don't know what scale is gonna work for an individual in our community. Kathy's basing her optimistic, and I appreciate that she's optimistic, because I think we felt a little hopeless until now. She's basing her optimistic kind of concepts on EOTA and Stewartville, both of which have manifested private clinics or private centers, which has been a win-win because then it's also on the tax bill. So that wasn't, I don't think, even on our radar in our earliest work. So seeing that can be done in other communities, if the right incentives are there, I trust that Kathy's given a lot of thought to those numbers.
Yeah, I think one question I would have for Kathy is, I was thinking that it would not necessarily, if it was an existing provider applying, we weren't saying you had to be in an expansion mode. And the way I read this one, it is for new or expanding. But if you were just an existing childcare, just wanting to continue to operate, you would not be eligible. I think the way I had thought of it is even if you were existing and not expanding, we would still be providing support. I don't know but then again, I think Kathy's coming from the standpoint that we're trying to create new childcare spots. So why give money to people who aren't expanding? So I think that would be a good question for this group. Do we want to just help everybody, or just only if you're adding slots or brand new in town?
Stagger the deadlines, like
Okay,
have an earlier, kind of.
earlier deadline for
Oh,
new or
yeah,
expanding,
Yeah,
and
let the newer expanding
Okay.
apply first, and
then,
then
okay,
that's not used up, go to the
Yeah.
existing.
okay.
Yeah, and the purpose paragraph on page 2, it says it's to provide grants for good loans for expanding childcare business and existing operating.
Okay, so maybe I'm rereading that wrong, so. Or two grants, okay. Okay,
And I know that from the financial statements that the existing childcare facilities that Kathy's aware of, that she's worked with, helped, develop, they were sharing their financials with someone locally who's interested in that model, and there's lots of transparency. They're giving every bit of information they can to make that eyes wide open decision. And so the individual who I consulted with, who's local, said, they're aware that it's probably going to require a $750,000 loan on their part. So there's no have your cake and eat it too. There's still be a big significant investment on their part. I think the last I heard, they were in like land search mode.
yeah, maybe what we can do is say one deadline, but like we did before, we'll prioritize new or expanding, and if we have funds available, we'll go to existing, and that's kind of how we sort of.
Score them.
Yeah, everyone comfortable with that, and
So my question is 50,000 enough? So is it 10,000 a year? Is that going to be enough for the existing childcare centers?
or you need for the
Upgrade.
center,
Yeah, no, well, not for the existing childcare places.
yeah.
How many do we have?
I think that, the way I set aside the funds for our vote for council is I did combine it with ensuring that we're aiding our small businesses. So I think if the 15,000 isn't enough and our costs for the HVAC replacement come in lower, we could definitely go to council and ask for additional support. I don't think we can go to significantly higher, but if we got $20,000 in requests, I think we could manage that, yeah. So,
So I was watching some of the news, and they're saying childcare providers, some of the lowest paid people in the whole industry. They're lower than fast food workers.
yeah,
So are you gonna have to boost wages? Are you gonna have to make improvements to the site?
mhm.
So it's like, besides HVAC, are there other improvements you're gonna have to make? And so that's why I'm wondering, if we got enough money plugged into this to make daycare feasible?
Mhm.
But it seems like you're talking about two different things. It seems like you're talking about centers and Caroline's talking about right now the in-home daycare providers.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, well, are they gonna have to go through an inspection? Are they having a problem with that?
Are you referring to a future center?
No,
Okay,
I'm
just
referring to
existing
existing.
childcare providers?
They just have costs that are unmet.
They're
I think
already
that's-
licensed.
They're licensed, they have, they're in-home, all of our family licenses, as far as I know, are in their own homes. They're not in a separate home as a facility, so they're in their own homes, needing to upgrade and maintain, every child driver who walked in has like a cubby system for everyone's coats and boots, and they have a table and everything gets.
High
get up,
chairs,
gets high chairs, potty chairs, and of course.
Cameras now,
Cameras,
everything,
Right,
yeah.
right. They have laptops, all of them need to do their state level reporting. Their own furniture gets
Trashed.
trashed, their outdoor playground. I know that when my kid's in-home childcare provider replaced her outdoor play structure, that was a really big deal because it had probably had 20 years of use already. Fencing. So those are for the in-home people. And as far as we've heard, $2,000 to $3,000 would be meaningful. And it's so much better than nothing.
Right.
Well, I think it's a start, and I think too, that, and you guys heard this a lot about,
A new vacuum. I did a
Vacuum.
similar program in La Crosse and it could be COVID only and someone bought a new vacuum for their facility. I'm like, that's a good idea,
and they're not cheap.
yeah.
And I know you guys heard, there was some concern about us not being supportive of in-home
Right.
versus going out and finding some, whatever, New Horizon to come in.
Right.
So this helps us kind of establish that, no, we want you guys to be, you're important part of this whole program.
Exactly. We're acknowledging that model is very legitimate. That is our model.
It's a real thing, yeah.
And then I think the other pieces Robin pointed out is if we're gonna incentivize a center.
Yep.
Either a center expansion, I think technically, would you technically see the schools as eligible for an expansion of their facility? If they met the criteria, because they are the only other non-family license provider type that we have.
I don't know why we wouldn't look at them.
Yeah, so that we had Start WK and St. Felix.
Yeah.
I think too, Kathy was conscious early on that we recognized that of our existing providers who've been doing this, some of them for 30+ years, there may be someone in that mix who understands the business of childcare and really wants to expand and wants to step away from their in-home setting and run a center. Knowing the providers that I do know, I wasn't sure if that was the case, but sure enough, that is what arose. It's someone who understands childcare, has experience in childcare. And so they're conscious of the staff model. To your point, Craig, when we modeled a center, as we have done multiple times with this childcare work group, it wasn't sure whether the First Children's Finance was not clear that we could tip the numbers that clearly said, yes, you need to be pursuing a center. So it is upon this, an individual who chooses to do this to kind of make the business model work for them, but they have quite a bit of business information at their disposal to work with to understand that. So they're gonna have to look at very, very carefully the number of infant and toddler slots they have, as well as preschool slots, because the infants are lost. You will be in the red with an infant-based center. So they'll have to have a balance of preschool and toddlers to do that work. But what the data was clear about at this point, with slightly adjusted numbers from the last time we looked at them, was that there is the unmet need, even if you just look at our zip code data or our school district data or our county data, not considering all of the Wisconsin counties and city, communities that are underserved. And so I think that's been the compelling argument all along, is that for our employers, who are the ones that brought this up, it wasn't the daycare providers who started complaining, it was the employers. With 40% of our healthcare centers employees coming from across the river, we know that whatever our data reflects, if there's need there, if there's undocumented need coming in to our employment centers.
So what do we need to do? We need to,
So it sounds like people are in favor of it. Two questions I have. Should we just make it a straight grant versus a deferred loan? Just from my perspective of deferred loans, meaning you're recording things complicates it a little more, but it's a guarantee that people are in business or they pay us back, but then if you're asking someone, we
Well,
need back
business-
$2,500, I mean, I think it's,
Well, your document says 1,250,000 plus interest every year.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go.
on page 4. Does anybody ever read this stuff?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, 1,250,000 plus interest every year. So I assume that's a typo.
yeah, I don't know, but I would just suggest that we just do a grant and maybe not for the $50,000, but for $2,500, it's not worth my time to be recording carting along documents. Personally, that's what I think.
It might
you know.
stand, it might stand as a barrier too. Remember, these are not people who have a bookkeeper on staff. They are doing it all.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think the grant makes sense.
Yeah, and then are we gonna try to save $10,000 a year towards a future center?
Maybe see how this goes.
Yeah.
If 15,000 makes a difference,
Mhm,
then.
You can use it every year. Yeah.
mhm.
I think there's other ways for us to find money. If someone came to us with a proposal.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
did have one of the in-home daycare providers reach out to me and ask me how we came up with the number that there's 111 spots needed for daycare. And I told her I did not know, but I would ask.
I don't know either.
It's First Children's Finance data,
Okay.
and I can't explain it except to say that they know it to be valid. It's based on birth data, and I've asked the question in the past, what about Washington County where there are no births anymore? And they said, yeah, they can account for that because those births are still recorded. And it is, there's a margin of error built into it. Watching the modeling is really interesting, and I think it would be just fine for a short presentation for this group. But First Children's Finance is modeling this for communities all over, and they feel that number is solid. If the number changes, again, if you're looking at the zip code, the school district, or the county, because that takes into consideration the number of providers. So I think that the impression I've gotten when it's been discussed on a regional level is that Wabasha County is believed to be rich with providers per children, per potential child slots. But again, I said, and this came up actually on a, what's this acronym says, this regional economic development plan has to be written every 5 years to qualify for
Sure.
federal funding. That topic came up, and I addressed this issue of being a bridge town where employers are seeing that a lot of their employees are passing through other counties in Wisconsin where there's also no childcare. And they said that makes a lot of sense, and that would be taken into consideration in our region. So it's one of those numbers that I think it's at least 111 is what we've been.
Okay, she just said to me, the meeting tonight and info brought to my attention from a couple other daycare providers. Can I ask how you came up with the numbers about daycare shortage? It said 111 daycare spots short just in Wabasha. That is very hard for us to believe unless this is counting school age kids. We are just curious as to how you guys got that.
Yeah, and that is part of the desire to have this, a local child. I can't remember, has that been, Kathy talked about this event that we'd like to have for local child care providers?
Yeah.
Is
That's
that,
coming up.
is that
Yeah.
outline how those numbers are derived?
Yeah, I think, I'm just revisiting it and I see another estimate for school district that's estimating only a gap of 53 with school district data. But I think, we could challenge the data, but I think big picture, I think we know there to be a gap. If I were to set a target goal, for me, it'd be more in the 50 slots, you
You know, we
know.
always have to be clear, if we're
But yeah.
talking about the city, the school district, or the
The
county.
county.
Yeah,
Because remember, our residents don't just work in the city,
True.
and so I
yeah,
think that's what Kathy's been thinking bigger, and that 111 probably represents.
We've always said
That's
that
within the city.
people that live
290
in
in the county.
Nelson use our, use our library, uses,
Sure.
so. But I think if maybe that this is something that the child care committee could dig into a little bit more is making sure we understand where that number is coming from and is it valid, and because it sounds like
The daycare
people are
providers.
concerned that if we create 111 spots, they're going off business.
Yeah, so
or
maybe that
something.
means they have openings currently and they're not booked to their capacity, so
Mhm.
why aren't they getting these kids that don't have
Yeah.
daycare?
So I think that goes to, we need to hear from existing childcare
I agree.
providers, so, yeah.
Okay, so on the 2,500, are we thinking, a 2-year loan with a forgiveness, or are we thinking a grant?
I think a grant makes more sense.
All right,
And then we said that it's for existing and new, and we would prioritize new slots.
yep,
Okay. I think that's,
so let's
All
do,
we need,
we
and
can do
then-
that, and then we'll talk
and
about
then
the,
we don't plan to say 50,000, because we think that if we had a project, there might be other ways to fund it.
we'd find money for
Okay,
that.
I would agree with that.
So can they,
Yeah.
can Kathy clean this up a little bit? I mean, she's got a number of figures running around, 25 for newly licensed childcare. We're not saying that, now. We're saying 25 for existing,
For all, she's saying for all.
for all, yeah. And so in here it's saying that's 25 for new. So, well, I was trying to go through this thing yesterday, and I had a hard time trying to follow the thing, so. Would be nice if we could clean it up a little bit, so it's a little more. It's more,
Yeah, I think that's something we could probably handle at a staff level.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, Craig, so I mean, she could draft it and then I can look at it and make
Change
sure that
change it
people
from a
understand it.
forgivable loan
Yeah.
to a grant.
Yeah.
Grant, and
Yeah,
Include all daycares.
Yeah.
that
Cover
will
all
prioritize,
daycares.
yeah.
Tyler, do you have this captured in the minutes? So it's a motion for approval, but it will just be a grant. Existing and new are eligible, but we'll prioritize new, and suggesting that staff clean up the program so it's understandable.
and you don't have to pay back $1,250,000.
no. be-
Because pretty sure they're gonna say no to that.
Yeah, so we need a motion with respect to that. So you want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second for that? This is $2,500 grant for
I'll
new and
second that.
existing. Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Both same sign. So that's pretty cool. That's something that's been kind of on the discussion table for a while. We're actually making some progress. That's pretty cool. Let's move on. I gotta get out of
So, yep, it's a childcare appreciation.
appreciation.
Mhm, and let me-
And so that's just, this is a discussion topic, obviously, right? No
Mhm.
motion to support event, all right.
So basically, the question is for the group, is there a board member able to obtain a sponsor for the event so that we could purchase $600 in food and beverage and 3 to 5 prizes?
I'll sponsor the event. I was gonna say, if somebody's willing to get the sponsor, I can tell you the sponsor.
We have a sponsor.
I'll sponsor
Thank you. That's kind of you.
It was just, okay, it's just easier, like, I'll do
It's
it,
just
fine,
easier.
okay. Thank you.
All right, so we need a motion to support the event. What else? Anything else? Marketing dollars?
Yeah, it's suggested to take it place at the golf course, which I was just there and it's great. And I think it would be really good if maybe even this Jeff Andrews from Smith comes and walks us through the data a little bit and, yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. So,
That'd be great.
okay.
A motion to support? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Post same sign. Thank you. Thank you, Robin.
Yes, of course.
Revolving loan fund requests. Click on that one.
And I do see that we have Natasha on the line. Is her application in this packet? Okay. Let's ask her. Natasha, were you thinking you were on the agenda today?
Yes, Kathy told me that I was, and she sent an
Okay.
email and all that.
She told us both Grant and Natasha would be online.
Okay,
about their revolving loan application.
okay. Corey or Con, is this something you have information about?
Just from talking to, we all talked
We
to
met
Kathy
today.
today.
Mhm.
Okay,
She did say that they would be speaking at least briefly on their applications and taking questions.
okay. Well, could you, maybe we'll just have Natasha,
I know Natasha's been working on her business model, and I think that's what she kind of wanted to present on today, and just
okay,
field any questions about the business or just introduce herself to Wabasha.
okay. Yeah, so Natasha, why don't you go ahead and, introduce yourself, and then, we'll make sure the volume's up there, and then I think official action on your loan request will be at a future.
Okay,
Does that work for-
sure. I'm just confused on, on all the steps. So it's fine. Yeah, it'll work out.
Okay. So the floor is yours. Share with us your proposal.
So my name is Natasha Amros. I currently reside in Mondovi, Wisconsin. I own a similar business to what I'm proposing in Durand, Wisconsin, called Zeal Wellness. It's an Herbalife nutrition club where we serve healthy shakes, nutritious and energizing teas. And then we offer wellness coaching right out of there. We get involved with the community there in Durand as well. Fundraising. We've been to some health and wellness fairs there in Durand. So our mission is to serve healthy shakes and teas, which are energizing drinks, and just develop and build community around what we do, as well as serving people in their homes and coaching them to live healthy, active lifestyles out of their homes as well by purchasing the product from home. So what I'm proposing is I'm opening round the clock nutrition there in Wabasha, renting from Robin. And so I wasn't sure how in-depth you wanted me to go with that, but similar business. I'll be selling the Durand location to my downline and be solely focusing on the Wabasha location once it is up and running.
Natasha, I'm just going to summarize the information that we have from Kathy, which is that we would still need to take another couple steps for your application. But if everything looks good, then she would be recommending an $11,000 loan for cash flow and equipment and leasehold expenses. So, and I don't know, and it would be a 5-year loan, 0% interest. And there's sufficient collateral. So that's kind of where she's at, but there's a credit check that needs to be done before continuing to present this officially to the committee, but that's kind of where we're at with it.
Yeah, and also to add, Natasha's been working with the Small Business Development Center, so she's been working with Jan from there, and she's got her business plan all put together, so that was part of what we, that was part of her application too, and so, yeah, pretty informative, so.
And for those of you who don't know, she's renting space from me right down under the bridge,
That's just what I was gonna ask.
where the scoop used to be.
Oh,
You know, that
perfect.
little
Yeah,
space,
that's what I was kind of thinking about, yeah.
She's been in there working like crazy, getting it all cleaned up and fixed up and ready for her shop, so I think it'll be great.
It's gotta work.
Oops,
Gotta
sorry.
get the plan.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you. We look forward to your application. It sounds exciting and I appreciate you considering Wabasha. So that's good.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited.
Good deal. Any other questions for Natasha? No? Can't really make any, can't do anything until we get her application, so.
We don't have the application?
We have the application, there's just some of those final touches
Yeah.
need to be put
Yeah,
onto.
sorry,
it
that's
before
what I
it can be-
Okay.
Yeah, it
So
looks like
we-
we're just
this-
missing a credit check at this point
Yeah,
to
I think that was
finalize it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you said your banker hadn't done that. That was it.
Okay.
Oh, you're mute, you're on mute, Natasha.
I'm not on mute.
Just wait.
Sorry, did you ask me a question?
No.
No,
sorry.
we're good.
There's a
Okay.
delay, okay. Okay, well, feel free to log off if you need to, and then Tyler, you want to review the other one? Okay.
Yeah, the other one we received from Kathy is the Anderson House loan application. That one is attached to the meeting agenda, also was sent to Ken and Corey. They're requesting 180,000, 3 phases of $60,000 each. Kathy stated that she talked to Rick Baplin and staff at WMB, has reviewed their financials as well. So feel free to review those documents in the agenda.
So we,
Do we have a recommendation on this, or, I mean, this is just the documents, but yeah, we don't really have a staff report.
yeah, no, we met on it.
Okay.
Yeah, we met on it with Kathy as a loan committee today. And so we recommend approval with a couple of additions to that. So looking for personal guarantees from the 4 owners of the entity that is borrowing the money. And then also looking for.
Well, to clarify, we're looking to approve 60,000, not 180,000
Okay,
At
yeah,
this time, yeah.
at this time.
yeah, so their application was kind of a big, broad picture of what they want to do in totality versus just what we can do now. So they had it broken out in 3 phases, and all we're looking to do is just approve that first phase of 60,000. So
Okay, and now I do see it, so, $60,000, a 10-year loan on the property. And then what would this be for?
They want to open the bar downstairs.
Okay,
that's part of it, and just kind of a full refresh in a lot of the rooms. I mean, I think there was talk of flooring and.
Yeah, they do new
paint.
carpet. They've been buying mattresses and bedding and those kind of things, but they do want to replace carpet. And they called it refresh, but they did mention that they do want to open that bar.
okay,
So the other piece that we'd like to attach to it is not to disperse all at once. So, yeah, and just, we talked about doing a monthly disbursement for what or reimbursement for what they spend in a month. And Kathy was gonna help track that, but then that way, she'll track that, and then once a month, submit it to the city to get reimbursed. So we're not constantly doing things. Yeah. So,
yeah, with the last one, that was just an acquisition, so that's a one-time front cost, where this is construction, and you don't wanna, yeah, I think that would
Yeah,
make sense, yeah.
pretty typical to do a
She
drop.
felt like they were in a position where they had a line of credit or credit cards that they could pay for things as they needed them,
Mhm.
submit the receipts and be reimbursed, and, within 30 days, they could repay what they borrowed. We thought that made sense.
Okay. So this is a motion to approve a $60,000 loan with the 10-year loan. Is it a 0% interest rate?
Yeah.
And that the loan have a personal loan guarantee from all 4 owners. And from my experience, what that means is that,
They signed a note.
yeah, you can go after them as individuals and garnish wages if you needed to, versus if it's just an LLC, it goes bankrupt anyways. And then we're gonna just do a monthly reimbursement based on receipts provided of evidence of expenditures of doing the project. Okay,
So I'm wondering, since they all own that building, why don't they offer that as collateral?
I think we are taking we will be
We
taking.
A position on it.
Yeah,
They
well,
have a financial statement on it, what they paid, what that.
yeah, so just like the loan we did with George Hill, we'll put a mortgage on the property.
Oh, okay.
It would just be in addition to that. That's good.
yeah, it's like, for example, if they put if for some reason we're not successful with that lien, there's a backup plan of going after the individuals.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, we did that in Cameroon.
I don't think it was. All right, so we have a loan application and we have a recommendation from the loan committee and our CETA rep to move forward with it. $60,000 was over 7 years, $700 a month payment or something to that effect. What else we need to know about it before we make a motion? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a first, we need a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion, concerns, anything? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Post same sign. So
So
they're gonna get the
for
last steps
the
up and going.
CDBG HVAC program, since we all last met, I had contacted the state to ask a question about how to handle our matching requirement. And because when I originally wrote our application, we presented the program as being 100% paid for by the grant. They took, Emma Jean is her name, took issue with us doing a 20% match after the fact. With the help of the city of Wabasha ARPA funds and one individual dropping out, we're looking pretty good to do 100% coverage of the program unless they voluntarily included something in their application, which 2 of them did. So these are the final numbers that we're looking at of what it's coming in at. And the other thing that I noted is we were going through a lot of work to loan people $2,000, which conceptually just doesn't make sense because of the federal nature of it. They are being asked to do lots of paperwork. And so, it's hard for them to put up their own monies when they're jumping through lots of, as someone termed it red tape, which I did my best to warn people of that. And you'll still get complaints like, I didn't know it was this much red tape, but that's because people, I think, skip over the policies and procedures book, They
Can I ask you
just,
a question?
yes.
So in Eagle Valley Chiropractic,
Mhm.
the grant's 13,000, the match is 2,100, but the total is only 10,000.
15,145.
Not on mine.
I think there's been.
I don't know.
Probably $1 million on it.
So I
Well,
will. I gotta look at
regardless,
this.
The key information is it's $13,000 that you're approving. Yeah.
Okay. Right, the key thing is that it should be added all the way across.
Okay,
Okay.
yep, I think I found that error and try to fix it.
And.
Yeah, it depends, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I downloaded on Friday, just so I had
Yeah,
time to look at this, but
Yeah.
that's my error.
You were too
That's your
prepared,
problem.
sorry.
So much for being
I
prepared.
realized, I realized my formulas weren't going across like I wanted. And I fixed it.
Procrastination pays off.
And then one thing that wasn't there is we sort of finalized Urban Arrow. There was some discussion about, wow, this is really challenging. I think we'll have to drop out if we have to do the 20% match. A lot of businesses found the match challenging. Even 20%, just because it's been a slow winter for our local businesses, so. And like I said, it looks like, wow, they're getting a great deal, but believe me, there are a lot of forms and things that they're agreeing to, so. I think it makes sense for us and we're looking pretty good in terms of we have a total of 94,000, 95,000 available. So this is committing 77,895 today, and then we'll still start working pending. We have Old Triangle Pub getting bids right now. Anderson House and potentially, Natasha's business. And so we're gonna just kind of get these under our belt, get some experience and continue to work with people, so.
Have we
No,
updated or contacted all the previous applicants?
They're excited.
Okay.
They're very happy. Yes, especially the ones that were gonna take out a loan to cover their match, which was Local War Gallery and Old Triangle Pub. They were like very grateful that they didn't have to be submitted credit checks and bank statements and things like that.
So there's more people than, that's on this list.
There are more, they just haven't
Haven't been fully
made it
approved.
through our process. Well, and like we're kind of we put Natasha's application on hold. It sounds like she's kind of figuring things out. And then we'll kind of have a final amount of what we're looking at. And then Anderson House, they were kind of figuring out what was going on with their revolving loan and their bar. So the two people I haven't contacted would be Natasha and Robin, and then Anderson House. We haven't started them in the process. Let me,
This grant online or no?
sorry.
So he's not.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he said he would be, but-
And then I can just pull up my spreadsheet. Turning Waters B&B dropped out. They really wanted to get an HVAC system done in time for the summer and they didn't want to work through the red tape. So Anderson House, we haven't met with them. And then Eagle Valley Chiropractic's on our list. Robin's on hold for right now as we figure out the other projects. Urban Arrow is on our list. This is Silver Star Saloon. They're doing some renovations to expand their business and they said that they weren't ready for knowing the new HVAC system they wanted for the new part of the restaurant till they finish their renovations. Local World Gallery is done. Pure Identity is being done this week. River Valley Outfitters is being done this week. SVJ is ready to go, and then Old Triangle Pub is working on getting a second bid and is almost ready. So yeah, I just don't have final amounts for everybody because they kind of gave us an estimate. You can see the most expensive project is Pure Identity Salon, and that's because they had a rooftop air conditioner and a really big building to address, where more of our smaller down, and then Urban Arrow also has some significant improvements that need to be made. But more of the smaller projects for smaller buildings are coming in 15 or 14,000, so.
So Pure Identity, I see they were putting the model on top of the roof.
Yep.
So they already proceeded.
Yeah,
well, I think it failed on
Huh?
them.
Yeah.
Part of the whole process is it failed
yeah.
during the process, yeah.
This really closely matches what we had already approved. What you're approving today is that they don't have to contribute the extra match. Pure Identity invested about $8,500 in other repairs, so we'll count that as leverage, yeah. So
Are we gonna approve something today?
Yeah, we're
I'm just
approving,
approving these new grant amounts and not requiring, and only requiring match for the ones that voluntarily were able to do it, which are Eagle Valley and River Valley Outfitters.
all right, so we need a motion to approve these numbers, and go forward. We'll make that motion,
So.
Second.
first and a second,
Discussion.
any discussion, go ahead, Craig.
So I'm not happy with, all these numbers are moving around. We've got extra applicants that are on this. I don't think this thing is quite pulled together for me to vote for this. I think I'd like to see it pulled together with a full list of people and the full amounts. So
Okay,
that's just, so I'm not gonna vote for this time, but that's the reason is, I
okay.
think we need to have this tied together.
But if we don't have estimates though, it's kind of hard. We can't put a number on it till they come back. So
Yeah,
We're kind of approving the people
Yeah,
that
to
are
let
ready
those
to
people know
go.
that they're.
What are we approving? I guess
These are
just
final
the-
bid amounts that we received. All the other ones that aren't presented,
And
they don't have their 2 bids in yet.
so all we're doing is approving those.
Mhm.
And the main
What's
thing
up
we're
there?
approving is that they no longer have to match 20% because the state says we have no right to do that.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're approving what's
Just
on the screen right now.
Right.
That's it.
That's it.
I'm-
And then
feel bad
as,
now.
and as, I'm sorry, yeah. As the new
I'll help you.
applications get their bids in, so next month, I imagine we'll have Old Triangle Pub in front of you and, Silver Star, cause like Silver Star and others, they just put 19,000 because they didn't have their bid, so I don't feel comfortable saying to our public, we granted them 19,000.
And their
So
bill came in at 16.5. I think.
yeah,
Well,
so
you know,
it was
they're
sort of
close.
and we didn't, and I didn't think through it, but we did an initial commitment of, you're in the program, right? We kind of decided Kellogg Minnesota projects didn't qualify and a residential didn't qualify. And then to everyone else, we said, we're in, we'll figure it out. And so then, like I said, we have 95,000 of federal funds available and we have monies available. So we will, I think everyone who we said you're in, we will get funded. And then actually Robin's project, we said we're out, but now we're hoping that even she'll get in as a part of making the application. And then I have had requests from Silver Star owner, just bought Stacy's Kitchen and he's wondering, could I do a project over there? And then Anderson House wanted to put in 2 new air conditioner systems. And so for those people, I said, no, we're gonna get through others and then we'll let you know if we have leftovers.
Where we're at from
Yeah.
there.
Do we have a
Yeah.
communication problem, or how come these people are just coming on, just learning about this now?
Because I think Kent just bought Stacy's Kitchen recently.
But that was an application that had a deadline date.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason I didn't get approved is because I didn't have my application fully filled out.
Mhm.
The reason I didn't have my application fully filled out is I remembered in my head that I was exempt because I was on this committee, but I remembered that wrong. That was from the loan thing.
Mhm.
And I just didn't apply until Kathy said, is there a reason you're not applying? I said, I can't. And she
Mhm.
said, yes, you can. Well, I was somewhere on vacation, so I had my assistant do the best she could
Mhm.
and turned in a very poorly application, and so I got pushed to the bottom.
If I could counter, I think you've done an amazing communication job.
Yeah,
And
I do too.
and this is what.
We've
you get.
moved a lot of money right here. I know.
When it was a 20%.
Carolyn and I scratched our head about whether we get an
Yeah, of course they
application.
have to.
Right, but the difference is I did get it into the application, and now these people who are asking after the fact for something that has been, the door's been closed, you know, that's a hard
It's
no.
typical.
Yeah.
There's a bar on the west side of, what's the name of the bar near
Ted's?
the?
West Side Bar.
West Side,
Yeah,
What's
Yeah.
up, hammers?
yeah, Hammers maybe,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
was like, I wish I would have applied, but yeah, it's closed right now. Yeah, so we'll move through everyone we have and then I can bring it forward. But honestly, I think we'll be done after this, so,
So we have a motion.
We got a first and a second.
okay.
Any more conversation on this? If not, hearing none, all in favor? Post same sign. Okay. RFP.
So, this is, so this is the idea that we would seek proposals for someone to build on the land on Main Street and then also get initial interest from people for the Highway 60 project, not really terribly specific with the Highway 60 project yet, but more or less just start to get a list of potential developers if that project comes to fruition. The more one that we're looking for something beyond just an expression of interest would be this parcel that I have right here. And it's been mentioned and it's across from the condos on Main Street, mentioned by a lot of people. That seems like it would be a good potential for housing development. So I think the thought is definitely, I do think this document also probably needs to be cleaned up and simplified a little bit, and separated. But I think today,
I'm wondering, is
Yeah.
that enough room to build on this thing?
It's
I
the
mean,
first
it
thing
looks-
that came to my mind
I
is the
know.
shoreline ordinance thing, here it comes again.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
can't do it,
I can't see
but it
anybody.
must as well just throw that ordinance out.
I didn't think so, but when I drove by.
For what I went through, torture for 3 years.
so when I
Yeah, but-
I
talked
don't get it.
to
But is that shoreline?
Wendy, we thought about
2,000 feet.
vacating that alley to create enough
Oh,
room.
that one looks out for them.
I'm looking at people that have been part of that conversation.
Yeah.
More than I have.
Well,
Yeah.
true, but I've looked over the last 10 years and people interested in that. And then they always threw it out that it's shoreline ordinance and because of the setbacks, 25 feet,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be any room.
That's what I.
And then the hillside creates a.
Topography is a big issue with this
Correct,
one,
on the
yeah.
hillside, well, that's a county that has that ordinance. But I just don't see how it's possible with the shoreline ordinance,
But you-
unless
if you look
you
at
just pass
those-
it like you did. the
Those
last
little
time.
houses that are right before it, that's about what you can put on that size
Those
lot.
little minis.
Those little houses.
You're talking units, I mean, that's a lot of people for the square footage.
Does this make sense to just give direction to have our planner, Harry Davis, review it and see with our existing ordinances what kind of variances it would require
Well,
and
they
how
have
is
to have
that
variances
feasible?
and setback, because
Yeah.
it's 25
Yeah.
feet and there's nothing left.
It
Yeah.
doesn't look real feasible to me.
Okay.
I've
You know,
been
it looks-
looking at it for 10 years.
It looks feasible when you look at it, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
But
But when you start to put the overlays on it and the topography, you
Yeah,
start
you'd
to
have have a
go,
12-foot wall to start with.
yeah, so there's a reason why it hasn't been built.
look how deep those lots are across the street, and so you,
Mhm.
what are you gonna put in here?
That
that's
covers
gonna be-
40% of the
That's
lot.
gonna be,
I
You
think
know-
we've talked about maybe reaching out to this landowner and seeing if they'd be willing to sell.
He never
Um,
has in the past.
which I don't.
Never.
I've gone through this
Right
with him.
here.
That guy will not budge.
This guy.
It's the
Yeah,
old shack on.
This is
there.
shack there,
The
yeah.
guy that owns the house next. to
Yeah.
I can never remember. But he
Okay.
was never willing to sell.
Yeah, but there's,
And he probably definitely against the project. You know, as far as variances and stuff.
well, you know what, I think maybe what we do is we ask our planning department to take a look at it
Mhm.
yeah,
and give us a
Yeah.
recommendation. And then in the interim, this document is, I think it's probably a good layout, but it really needs a lot of work. Just a lot of typographical errors. Cleaned up, tightened up,
Yeah, there's some, yep.
so
spelling for Wabasha, right?
there's that. But
I think, and then what is the feedback on, getting letters of interest for, yeah, I think my opinion was for the Highway 60, it's not even a proposal, it's send us a letter that you may be interested in this property in the future to kind of get people thinking and planning about the Highway 60 area for commercial residential. But what are thoughts on that, you know? Because I think, and I don't,
Yeah, this was, I think we talked about this for a number of years, and that was, the idea was this would go commercial. All three of those lots. Parcels, whatever you
Yeah.
call them.
I don't know if we're too early.
mhm,
Yeah, we might be.
And, you know, it'd be nice to know where we stood with bonding. I don't think that us attracting letters of interest will help the bonding process.
No.
We're past that.
mhm,
And I wouldn't want to get the wrong information out there or
Okay.
assumptions out there before we kind of had that mapped a little
Okay.
bit.
so have,
You know what
But,
I mean?
Yeah, you don't want them to pass on it now and not come back.
Exactly. when-
Right, right.
okay,
You know, so,
okay, I think that's totally legitimate.
and I know it's
So-
crazy, we've got that
yeah.
huge piece of land there, that huge parcel, and the one sitting vacant across the road there next to the grocery store.
Mhm,
But I think there's reason for that yet, you
mhm.
know, so.
Okay. So hold on letters of interest for the Highway 60 and then consult with the planning department.
Yeah,
I don't think we need official action on that. I think we were just looking for feedback, so. Okay.
I think eventually you're looking at some type of development in mosquito field and in the athletic field.
Mhm.
And I think, and
Absolutely.
I asked about, under the 217 agreement, could that be filled, and I would think, I got a yes from that.
yeah.
So that
Well,
would be more enticing to be filled and ready to go.
yep, and
Except
it's,
that the hauling and loose, that's to be compacted, so the cost, but it's still, it's done with the hauling's free.
and so that site as well as the dump site are identified as sites.
Correct.
So as
And
part
this is
of,
probably, on the top of the list.
Yeah.
Mosquito field.
Yeah. all right, so Port Authority work plan. This is a continuation of our work plan, and we just need to take a look at it, review it, and adopt it going forward, right? Yep,
Yeah, I think that we eventually will be getting someone to Kathy will continue to do the housing and we might get someone else doing the other issues, but I still think this is a good starting point, but each staff person is gonna bring their skill level, and so I would continue to encourage that this is a living document, so as they bring in different skills, maybe it gets changed a little bit, but.
So here's a question. I got your email forwarded from Tony Smith. And it said, bring in 5 ideas for what you want to see.
Mhm.
So I picked this document up. Isn't this some of the, this is.
don't
5
be
things-
stealing my idea for tomorrow morning, okay?
That's not
Or
what I was
yours.
gonna do at all.
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna add to this, maybe was add trails in there, but otherwise, here's 5 ideas and we, shouldn't this be part of what we're gonna talk about tomorrow too?
I mean.
It is, but this is
This
our,
is the Port Authority.
yeah, this is ours, and this is where,
Not
this,
the council's work, so.
this helps us defend
It
or,
was
Bloody God.
this helps us defend or take action, with respect to trying to find additional funding, or maybe turning something down and going with something else.
Mhm.
And also helping to direct staff, where their energy is best spent. And this is all driven off that, survey that we did some time ago and some other input, so.
Right, that's how we got these 5 goals.
Yep. So, I don't know if there's any changes or additions you guys want to make to this, otherwise we adopt it for another year. Of course, as you say, Caroline, it is living, and we can certainly
Mhm.
revisit it at any time. I think the target or the argument with this is we adopt it and then it gets brought up to council that this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I think fleshing out the 5 goals, fleshing it out, that's what this is doing. I think that's good.
Yeah, and I welcome all of you to bring this tomorrow. I think, like currently, for me, it's kind of a little bit, what makes it different is the city want to spend time, effort on it. I mean, I consider the Wabasha Port Authority and the city to be closely linked, but they may not always be so linked, so. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
It's a tool of us, certainly. And if you're there, that'll be us.
Okay.
That'd be 3,
And if
4, 5.
ours there, that'll be us.
There's 5 of us here, so.
And we have a mayor that's even more.
We'll see what happens tomorrow. Maybe that'll be surprising.
Who knows?
All right, so a motion to adopt.
Con?
It's your turn, Con.
Second?
Corey, you step out, man.
No,
All right.
Too late.
For Christ's sake. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Post same sign. Thank you.
All right, do we want to tackle the pulled invoices before we talked about future costs, Craig, or do you
Sure.
want to?
Yeah, let's.
All right.
Do you want the, housing committee update?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I mean, I think you don't, it's okay.
We do.
Well, let's do housing quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a lot to say. We did establish that on the first Wednesday of each month, we will meet at 12:30 to accommodate tea times.
It's
Right.
11 o'clock now.
Oh, is it 11 now?
Yeah, because
Okay.
of golf.
Okay, I knew we changed it. I knew we changed it. I just.
Derek
remember what time.
Martin.
Well,
Okay,
we have a
11
good
o'clock.
reason.
11 o'clock, yeah, we have to, we do want, we have very
First
good.
Wednesday of every month.
Yeah, we
Okay.
actually, and at 11 a.m. And we did have really good participation. We had some people online and we had at least a dozen people live and we had really good conversation. And I felt like there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement about it. And we do have 7 core members who have agreed to attend these Housing Institute workshops. And there's like 6 of them in the year, I think, so bi-monthly in Rochester, where it'll be like 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening. And then they give who's ever staying over a hotel room. And then they have 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. meeting on Thursday. And that first workshop is actually this week, Wednesday and Thursday. So then we'll have homework to bring back for our next meeting.
Wow, okay.
So we're off to a good start.
Yeah, I was impressed with that first meeting. It was very good to see all the new faces
Yeah,
from the surrounding area, and close like Winona and stuff.
yes,
Mhm.
yep, I
That's
agree.
good interest.
That's cool. That's really good.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, let's tackle these invoices. We got financials. No, what do we have? The 3 invoices? Is that what we pulled?
Yeah.
All right.
3 invoices.
Okay, so you want to do Bolton and Mink invoice?
Let's talk Bolton and
this
Mink.
First one?
Yep.
Okay.
So can I preface this as I asked them to be pulled?
Yes.
Mhm.
So my main questions are, how are we gonna pay for all this stuff? We're running up now to 100 and almost
200.
almost 300,000.
Yeah.
And so, do we have a plan? How we're gonna pay for this? Can the 750,000 that we're getting from the state, can that be used for our legal and engineering costs?
I don't know about legal, but engineering, yes.
Well, what is that's what's paying the bills now? isn't
Well, no, we're paying the
it?
bills.
We're paying the bills, but expecting to.
They'll be reimbursed,
Right,
you know. So this is the big topic, and we've talked about doing a joint session, that's on our agenda here as well. We're at that stage again,
Mhm.
where we need to think about going forward, going to the next level.
What comes up on the agenda is the future cost. If this, we have to do the environmental assessment and stuff, we're not going to have the money to.
Well, we funded the environmental assessment already, well, we haven't, we've
No, we have 100,000.
approved it, and we're paying parts of it as we go. Now, I'm gonna jump ahead here.
Yeah, I think your question is really about the Parge terminal cost, which I do have in here. So,
Yeah,
yeah, so
That's the
it.
2 bills that
So,
Yeah,
we've approved all of what Bolton and Mink has already done, and we approved all of what Flaherty and Hood have done up to this point.
mhm.
And when we've authorized Bolton and Mink to do the environmental worksheet, which is gonna go into the study. And the engineering for the actual barge terminal. That's estimated cost $100,000, and Tyler put together and kind of showed us
Yeah,
on this last
yeah.
slide where we're at. So in essentially a year from now, I don't know, Tyler, you want to jump in, but
Yeah, based on these projections, which include 100,000 for the environmental review and then 50,000 for legal cost, basically gets to a $92,000 balance at this time next year.
so that's where we'll be at.
Yeah, well, I understand all that. When you get down to the bill, it's just like, these bills just keep coming in, and what are we getting for it? I haven't seen one design. What are we paying for? And I haven't seen the dock design or anything. What are they doing? We just keep paying these bills,
I've
33,000.
seen them around town, so they're surveying around town.
Yes.
That's, it's a surveying for the street, they're downtown doing for that.
Well, for
That had
the
nothing to do with,
ones that you guys are paying for, let's go back to it.
I thought they both said for.
They did a lot of work, I know recently, reviewing the DMMP for us from a engineering perspective. Here, let's pull it up. So 4, okay, that would be Okay, yeah, I guess it's not terribly specific, but
No, it
yeah, I
just
had
says the
it.
departments, what, how many hours it's spent.
But,
Don't say what they're doing.
so port preliminary design, EAW and permitting. So yeah, I still, I didn't, Brian said, should I be here? And I was like, no, you don't need to be here. But I know that, I can clarify with him. I understood that this is getting, doing the environmental review, which they estimated to be $100,000. So I can clarify, is this, because we estimated an additional 100, is this 14,437 out of
Yeah.
there? But I do know that I have them working on another grant application because we didn't receive the last one. So that's not gonna be a lot of money because it's just recycling the old one. I know that the three of us have sat in a lot of meetings with Brian Malm on the project, but yeah, I'm kind of reading that this is more about the environmental assessment and the work to date on that. So.
Yeah, I think these look in line with what I've seen throughout my business. They look in line, they look okay.
Well, yeah, that's
Well,
true,
what
but
I-
I just
what
don't
I'm
see any physical evidence of what they're doing.
Yeah, because
Where's
they're
the
not,
re- like, what
Where's
have
the
you-
report
yeah, what
and
have
where's
you
the
done?
design? You see
They're-
nothing.
They're still working on their plan.
They're working.
Yeah, and the EAWs, or environmental impact statement, I guess it's gonna be, is
And they're the ones that's doing the whole work, right? The whole environment.
yeah,
Bolton.
Bolton, man.
Yeah.
And everything that's not in the river.
Right.
Supposedly, everything that's in the river is covered by the Corps of Engineers environmental permits.
Completing the muscle report, it's like we're going through with the dock. I mean, it's
They
just,
think they have to do that muscle survey on that new,
and I think that's already been done on that channel.
Yeah.
From what I hear,
what?
that's already been done.
yeah, some years ago. I don't know,
Yeah.
they might have to, it depends if it's
I'll check, told me
new
that was
enough.
done. He verified that it
Yeah.
was done several years ago.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't concern us anyway, if it's in the river.
Well, what I'm kind of concerned in is when I look at the financial projections, so we start off April 22 with 218,000, we end up March of 23 with 92,000. So are we gonna be putting some money back into our finances, Port Authority finances?
So this is the big question. We are at another crossroads to make the decision. If we continue to fund this, you know, as you can see what it's doing to our income or to our bank accounts.
Yeah,
At this point, we don't know if it's gonna be a real thing,
correct,
okay?
right.
So we have to make the decision. Collectively, the city has almost $300,000 invested in this. By March of next year, we'll have another 125 invested into it probably. So at that point, and we've been awarded grants, and it shows us that we'll probably be awarded additional funds, okay? But that only gets us to the point of building it. And so there's gonna be a joint workshop with respect to the Port Authority as well as the council to kind of make a decision if we continue to lean forward on this, or where do we go with it? And, you know, then we talk about, if we don't go forward with it, if we don't continue to go down this path, what does that mean for our city? You know, what does that mean for the DMMP? We're suddenly not on the top of the list, we're somewhere else. All of those things. So we're at that point, and this is a Port Authority project. You know, we can certainly request funds from the general fund to continue to support it. But it's been my contention, and as long as I am around, you know, this is an enterprise fund for the Port Authority when it's done. It's going to help us work on economic development
Yeah, but
for
I
the
think
city.
it's time we now start putting together a document on exactly how we're going to fund this project. We know we're going to expend money on it, and we know we're going to, if everything gets built, we'll be getting some income back every year. But
But not this year. The sand's gone.
It's just amazing how that buildup of sand on the Chippewa was like a foot deep.
Yeah.
And the barge ticket got stuck this spring.
Yeah.
Well, Paul stopped by with that flood report on Friday at my house. And I said, are you gonna start pumping right away in the spring? Because they were getting these easements and they had to get going. Well, it turns out they just surveyed and the sand is all gone because of the high water. It is 9 feet.
It got all
deep.
flushed out.
It's all gone. So they're not even gonna pump.
Problem solved.
Well, it's true. But I said, where did the sand go? And he goes, that's a good question. It's in the backwater someplace.
Yeah.
But, you know, if they don't need the dredge, where are they gonna, and we keep doing the 217 and the hole keeps getting bigger and they don't need to pump because if this situation happens again, it's just that if it slows down, when the water slows down and it deposits all that sand, or they may have to pump in the middle of the
Summer,
summer. He couldn't
yeah.
answer my question about the 217. If they don't pump sand in, we'll keep hauling out 130,000 every winter and there won't be anything coming in.
Yeah.
So, you know, like,
So these are those big questions.
Yeah, and so I'm
You know.
thinking,
and does the 217, do we still haul out the 130 during the winter?
I have faith that we're gonna have questions saying,
Yeah, I don't think it's just like.
yeah,
It's always been there.
it's an odd thing.
It is.
But what I'm asking is that I think that the Port Authority should begin putting together a document that says how this project is gonna get paid for.
I agree.
You know, so we're gonna get, you know, what, 50 to 100,000 back in tipping fees. And, you know, what is that gonna, how much is that, how much are we gonna get granted, how much is gonna be bonded that we're gonna have to pay back on bonds? So we need to start thinking about that.
Well,
Well,
when
let
they
me-
came up with projected
Yeah,
cost and profit,
I'll show you what the
they
current
had all that.
plan
That doesn't mean anything.
is that the current plan we have is it's gonna be what they call a revenue bond, and this is presented to council. A revenue bond, so, you know, we were estimating 2.2 million when it was built, a 20-year term, a higher interest rate, so a higher bond payment. And the idea was that we were paying off this debt for this project with the revenues we're receiving, and it's built into the estimates that we did. And then we have the 755,000 represents the money that we got. And then we're continuing to go out after grant funds to drive down the borrowed funds. So my biggest concern when I think about it is that to get this to work, we need our agreement with the Coners to work. It doesn't work unless they work. So my only concern is, yeah, we have potentially $350,000 in sunk costs that if at any moment they back out, like, we don't get the grant, nothing happens because the project doesn't happen. So right now, I think we were kind of waiting for the DMMP and the 217. Now that that's in place, we'll be working with the Coners and with our attorneys to start laying out the terms for our partnership with the Coners. If we pass, if we're running parallel, like, we're still doing that environmental review. So I hate to say it, but at the end of the day, we could spend $350,000 and have no project.
Correct.
Well, no,
But I think we've talked about it and said it's worth it, I
Yeah.
guess. So-
and
And
just,
Chuck's on the line, so I don't know if he wants to comment on this.
I'll
but-
say this though too,
Yeah.
you know. An easy $50,000 to $100,000 would have been spent anyway, just on our legal fees from 2017 to now, to get us in a position to where the Corps and the city are working together. That's just that simple. So we've got the other part of this, which is trying to get the terminal put together. We know, Craig, kind of what our tipping fees are gonna be, or, you know, what we're gonna get off of tonnage and that kind of thing. We set that, it's in the 217. We've got to get the other side, which is the Coner side, put together. So part of this conversation, this joint workshop is gonna be that kind of discussion. And why we're at that crossroad is because now we're moving to that stage. That's where we are now. Either, you know, what's concurrently happening is the worksheet and everything and the engineering and the design and all that. But the negotiations with our third party need to begin.
Well, and I say sooner than later because I've been talking to Chuck.
We need to
You
get
know,
done.
there's a design and we have had no input, and I see on the proposed design as a building, water and sewer, you know, the cost associated with that?
Yeah.
What do we need water and sewer in a building for that's gonna operate 3 months of the year? I mean, we don't get to address any of this. It's in the projection is to have a building with outhouse. We just have an outhouse for the workers are all moving truck. But nobody questions about what they came up with projected
I
cost.
think the
We haven't
theory
seen
is
the
always
plan
going
yet.
high, so if we say we can
Well,
knock
I've seen it.
500,000,
I'm
that just
writing, I've
reduces
seen it.
the debt, you know, so I don't think it's, there'll be a time to weigh in on
Yeah,
the specifics.
But I think the time is soon.
Okay,
And so that's kind of where we're at. So, in my opinion, the invoices that we have before us are for work that we've received. So that's that part.
Yeah.
And we've already made the commitment to continue to move forward with the EAW.
We're at 283 and we've got another 100,000 planned, plus there'll be more than that.
Yeah,
Right.
So, and that's all I'm saying is,
Yeah.
okay. This document that you have, Carolyn,
mhm.
can you send that around to the members of the Port Authority?
It's on the agenda.
Yeah.
It's on there?
It's at the
It's
end.
on the new one?
No,
Yeah,
it was
it was
there,
after
it
Friday.
It's down at
was
the end.
there for how long? I don't think.
I'll come over to your house next week.
or call me, Craig, we'll talk.
It's not there,
It's a list.
5.8, it would be towards the end.
Large terminal costs, okay, 5.8. All right. I'm waiting. All right, I'll find it.
So,
Okay.
And you remember this is the one we walked through with Mike Bonnie, it's a part of our.
Which document? This document, I'm sorry, is not on there. You're correct.
Yeah,
This is the general,
okay.
finance
Good.
plan. That's not on there.
I'm
No,
not
I thought you
totally-
were talking about just my notes, but, I can,
That is a nice.
I find that this is every city priority and how we're paying for it. So you'll see some familiar projects like the Trunk Highway 60, the downtown reconstruction. And this is indicated like, sorry, it's really hard to see on the screen, pure revenue bonds. Now,
Yeah.
what is a faulty assumption here was, I think Chad was thinking that the barge terminal revenues were gonna pay for the new athletic field there, and I think we're just kind of, we need to almost change those assumptions, because, well, one thing is, the Port Authority wants the revenues, I don't think, so, but the athletic field is key for the Highway 60, so.
Yep.
But yeah, this is,
The work.
yeah,
Do you think Bolton, do you think they could show us some kind of design or what they have at that? like,
Yeah.
I know they have a
17?
doc design already done because Chuck's question.
yeah, so what do
So
we do?
where
Let's
is
just have
We
Bolton
don't see it.
present next month on it.
Yeah,
Or at that
I'm
joint-
texting Brian right now,
Okay.
so I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm
No.
just texting him, so, yeah, at the next meeting, we could kind of have him share what the $30,000 in recent bills have been giving us, because I will be honest, yeah, I haven't seen it.
I think we don't really need him to itemize his bill. but we-
No,
I
just
don't know,
show
it's
us-
not just a bill, it's just like, what's
Where
happening?
we at?
Let's see what he's got done so
This
far.
is doc
So
system.
do we have
How's it gonna
do we have a
operate?
preliminary plan that we can go through?
Right.
Okay.
Another thing is, and
And
we have to get this open about, the Corps wants to buy this cemetery diamond chip. They want to buy it now. I already gave them,
the one that's on
On the opposite side of the
61
railroad.
side of the
I
track.
already gave them a perpetual forever, but now they want to buy it because they want to do some improvement. They want to buy the bean field in the worst way yet. I talked to Paul about it. But Conner isn't going to sell it unless he gets a mining permit, and the mining permit isn't going too well. You probably don't know about it yet, but they filled out all the reports to do the mining, and the Corps would fill it right back up. Like, because of the preliminary and sending it to the people from Bolton Lake, and they're sending it all back saying, no, it's all wrong and everything, and they're getting frustrated. So something's got to be. really-
Chuck,
Let's-
can you speak
let's-
to this?
Let's
or-
stop for 1 minute. Wait,
or-
let's just stop.
Yeah.
What's before us right now, we gotta pay these 3 bills. Okay, let's get that paid
Yeah,
and then let's move on,
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, okay.
So, a motion to pay these bills.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
there we go.
all in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Okay, that's done.
Okay, thank you. Chair.
Now, where are we at?
Mr. Chairman, could I?
Barge terminal.
can I-
There. Okay, so Chuck, you're on.
A couple of things that I think are important. What Caroline mentioned about, what happens if they, and I think Dave has a little bit too, what happens if the Corps doesn't dredge? and all of a sudden, there isn't material going on. Trust me, they've been dredging this channel for what, since 1930. That ain't gonna change. They might have 1 year where it's less. I talked with Paul about that, shut up, phone. I talked to Paul about that 2 weeks ago. I said, that issue is going to come up at some point because there's no guaranteed money and there's only estimated quantity in the 217. He said the very same thing I just said to you. You really think we're not going to dredge after we've been dredging since 1930 every year? He said, even if we don't, we've got millions of yards of material on those islands. And we have annual budgets that we get from the Congress. You guys will continue to unload whether we're dredging or not. You could unload for 10 years and we wouldn't get those islands done yet. So I'm not terribly concerned about that.
Winter.
One more thing. With regard to, I'm not sure, I can't tell who's talking half the time here, but I think it was Craig who mentioned, well, gee whiz, where are we going to get the money if we have to service bonds, and we don't know if we do yet. We're not sure of that yet, are we? Where's the money going to come from? Well, tipping fees. Well, what's that going to amount to? And some of the commissioners may not have been here back in Tyler, help me, when you did that financial forecast back, 2-3 years ago, maybe 2020.
2020, I think.
Where we had the tipping fees figured in. And if you look at that real carefully, and I do from time to time, you'll see that the net cash, forget a depreciation. You got plenty in the budget to fix that terminal. Something breaks. The net cash per year runs, $337,000 to the Port Authority. Not net cash, total cash. Revenues, $337,000 a year. It ain't going to take very long to pay off whatever you're doing on the frontier after the grants are subtracted from it. So I guess from a pure business person standpoint, you're investing in a cash flow that's going to be $37 million over a space of 10 years. And this thing won't end after 10 years. This will probably go 20 years. Also, at some point, I don't know when, the designs I've seen, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well, that I've seen from Brian to date, and I've encouraged this, are set up so that if we ever want to, we can get into handling other commodities across that dock. And those revenues aren't even assumed yet. And you might call that net money because we've got the expenses already covered. Now, where are we on these things? First, I'm not sure where we are on the design today. I've met with Brian a couple of times in the past 6 months with design proposals that the other firm, AMI, the subcontractor you see on those invoices, that's AMI. They were your subcontractor on the Eagle Center dock as well. We've looked at some of those designs and we've pared them down. AMI has a way of designing for Lake Superior or a Gulf Coast port rather than a river port. And we're not putting 30,000 ton vessels in there. So we've pared down in terms of the scale and the expense as well in terms of the mooring facilities. I have not seen a final design yet, but I understand it's close. Talk with Brian about the EAW. 2 weeks ago. And Caroline, you probably know as much about this or hopefully more than I do, but it's my understanding where we stand on that is they're about ready to present it to the Port Authority in its final form. You people are the responsible governmental unit. You will make the decision on what you see. They've been kind of holding off to get past the DMMP 217 stuff that's going on, and we're by that now. So I expect you'll see that probably in your June meeting. You'll have a major decision to make at that point. And I'll not get into that tonight, but as much as you may think you have heard that an EIS is mandatory, trust me, it's not. And I'll make that pitch to you at some point. And that's a decision you're going to have to make once you see the EAW. So bottom line is this, I think I know what they're doing for these invoices, and they are making progress. I kind of wish they had shared some of this with you, but they haven't, so be it. I guess if I were sitting in your chairs, I wouldn't be terribly concerned about the future in terms of revenues to the port for the reasons I explained. Enough said.
Okay, and Brian Malm is gonna join us on Zoom. I was able to get in touch with him by text. So, he'll be joining us in a few minutes. Okay. Chuck, do you want to, while we're all here, address the point that I think I saw an email from you being frustrated about the mining ordinance and that there was some talk in simplifying the mining ordinance. So again, it seems like Brian might be up to speed with where we're at with what the Coners submitted. Chuck, do you have any, if you could step away from your role representing the Coners, I don't know if that's possible, but do you have any concerns? I have concerns that Coners might back out from performing on this contract. Not want to sell us the land or, just decide, no, we don't want to do that. How would you respond to that?
Well, that's a good question, Caroline, and I haven't heard that mentioned recently. But I've heard it mentioned, put it that way. And there's going to be a shift in management at some point here, not too long in the future. Sean Coner, as you may or may not know, was serving both for the Coner Company and a captain, a full-time firefighter captain for the Winona Fire Department. He retired retired, can you believe that? Well, firefighters can retire early. He retired as of the end of last year. He is now full-time Coner. And I think that's your future. And Sean has not told me he's the least bit interested in walking away from anything. But you're right. I mean, they could turn around and say, we've had it with this. We'll see you later. They surely don't need the money. So that. But you did mention Beanfield and that mining application. I've been doing all the drafting on that. Other than the outside consultants, we have spent $38,000 on that application to date, $38,000. And I took what we have spent, what we have received from our engineers, from our environmental consultant, from, good Lord, we have 2 or 3 different consultants working for us, and packaged that into a draft application that I submitted to your Bolton Mink planners.
Okay.
And I got a response last week, and I took a look at it, and I said to myself, do we really want to go any further with this thing? Because it's unbelievable. Those of you that have been around Wabasha longer than I may recall the reason you have that mining ordinance. It was adopted in 2015. Let me guess, it had something to do with the brouhaha that was going on regarding frac sand mining at the time. And I got a feeling that was a genesis of that ordinance. And it's full of so much stuff that relates to that doesn't relate to what we would be doing at the Beanfield. It's just unbelievable. I have not responded to the Bolton and Mink planner, Harry, yet. I've done a draft of that response for Coners. Their email to me on it covered what, 5 or 6 pages? And my email or my response back covers only 2. But there's a lot of stuff in there. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it. We're going to have a discussion on that. But it's really been a circus. It really has. And as Caroline knows, I spent a lot of time in local government in her position, not her position, but community development director in cities as big as 68,000. I've never seen an ordinance like that. I don't know where it came from. I do know that Chad, last year, year before, realized that. And he drafted a minor mining, that wouldn't be right, the small mines ordinance. I don't know whatever happened to that, but it disappeared at some point. and I can't
Yeah,
find my copy.
I haven't followed up on that. If there's an interest from council to adopt a small mines ordinance and pick up what Chad did,
I know the answer to that, Caroline.
Okay, Brian's here, thank goodness.
So the small mine ordinance was drafted. It was sent to the Coners for review. They sent it to their consultant to evaluate what potential cost savings that would have over the regular mine ordinance. I'm not sure if the planning commission reviewed it or if it was a working group. But the response from the Coners consultant was that it didn't significantly reduce the cost burden over the standard mine ordinance. So it didn't proceed. So it exists. There's a draft there. But my understanding was in response from the Coners consultant is it didn't reduce the burden significant enough to make it worth pursuing enacting that small mine ordinance. And then my understanding from the folks that were involved in drafting that is there was not an interest in reducing. And I thought the planning commission looked at it, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and there wasn't an interest in reducing any of the requirements to any further degree. So it died, basically.
Yeah, I guess so is Craig Falcom. So I was on the planning commission at the time. And we had a lot of teeth gnashing about what do we do about existing mines? What do we do about new mines? And how is that going to affect the existing gravel operations in the city? And so it's my recollection, but I have to go back and look, that was what we got from the planner, Christie, Trisco, got her last name. But so that came out of Bolton and Mink is what I thought. I remember being kind of surprised that this is almost the same as a mining ordinance. I mean, it's not real helpful at all. But that was the recommendation, and so I think it's my recollection that that's what the planning commission did, was they followed the recommendation from Christie.
That's not my recollection, Craig.
So this is John Friedmeier. I can chime in a little bit because I was on planning commission when all that went down. And if memory serves, it was Molly Patterson Lundgren was the planner at the time. And it was after we had settled all of the frac sand situation. And my memory of that ordinance was supposed to allow for aggregate mining. And the action of mining itself, which is expansion. I don't know where Chuck, there's a bunch of hurdles, or Brian, where there's a bunch of hurdles with it. I thought it kind of would allow for something like them to mine the bean field.
It does. If the city's interested in modifying the ordinance, we're happy to assist with that. But absent a revised ordinance, we don't have a choice other than to enforce the ordinance. So I think there are probably some things you can do to modify that ordinance to reduce the burden on sand and gravel mining. But and I didn't hear all of Chuck's comments. I just jumped on the meeting as he was finishing up his comments, but I don't necessarily disagree that some of the requirements in the ordinance, as you would apply it to what they want to do on the bean field, are probably onerous. But absent some other ordinance that, we can enforce, we don't really have a choice. And in my recollection of the revised ordinance was that, we looked at the ordinance that exists today. We suggested some reductions to the ordinance. And again, I could be wrong about this, but my recollection was there was a reluctance to cut anything more out of that ordinance from the planning commission. Now, if I'm wrong about that and there was willingness to cut more out of the ordinance for small mines, then we can revisit that and it might reduce some of the requirements. But my recollection was there was a reluctance to cut anything more out of the ordinance. And when the Corners had their consultant look at this, it really didn't reduce the cost to a significant degree, so it died.
I should say, I am not aware, they have not made me aware of that last observation by Brian. I don't doubt it. They didn't tell me about it. And I don't know if that was the same group at Corners that I work with, which is the Winona group, or the Wabasha group.
It was. They had Johnson and Schofield look at it. They did a cost analysis. I've got some emails on it. And it kind of died, so.
Well, in any
It sounds
case,
like
I
this
have
needs to
not
go
seen
to the
it, so I
planning
don't know.
Yeah, it just needs to get revisited.
Yeah.
Because the intent of the original ordinance was to manage mining within the city limits. It wasn't to restrict, it wasn't to ban mining, it was to manage mining.
Right.
And I know that we had talked at length about the amount of, open pit you can have versus the total area of the mine, or I don't remember all the different things. And so I think there's plenty of places that can maybe get looked at or revisited. Yeah, so probably needs to go back to planning. So that's another part of this that needs to kind of get looked at.
Yeah, as I recall, it was modeled, it took several different communities and their mining ordinances and put them all together. And this is what they came back with.
And that's pretty obvious when you look even how it's numbered, because there's no
We
consistency in the
didn't
number.
really have the expertise to.
No, we did
overrule
not.
some of that.
All right, so.
December 12th, 2012, when all that started, by the way. What?
So-
Roxanne?
So
Yeah.
Chuck, I don't know where you stand with your negotiations, but if you're willing, maybe let's get this on a planning commission agenda, Brian, and
Well, it suits me fine. We're past, and Brian had concern, and I agree with him about, and we had a lot of stuff going on at the same time with the 217 and the DMMP. Well, we're kind of over that hump now, and maybe it's time we can sit down and talk about it, and we'd be more than happy to. And, I can share my comments that I've sent to the Corners. I haven't sent them to Brian yet, or to Harry yet, but I can share those with all of you, and we can take a look at what may or may not be able to be done.
okay. And another quick question for you, Brian, was, the question was brought up, they're looking at January and February, invoices that are described as port preliminary design, EAW, and permitting. And they're wondering if at the next meeting, you could show, it shows that we spent a total of almost 30,000 on the task, where we sit to date in terms of what's been done. Not a line item, but just present what's been done. Or maybe give everyone a time frame of when we will learn under that. And then my question was, we had estimated 100,000 for environmental review. So is that going to be in addition to the 100,000 we still need a budget, or is this coming off that total?
So that task, the preliminary design, EAW, and permitting, that's what the port had authorized last fall to proceed with the EAW. So we need to do a little bit of preliminary design on the port project in order to establish what the environmental footprint will be for the project in order to do the EAW. So this is all part of what was authorized prior. The 100,000 I gave you has not been fully authorized yet, because that's my projection of the worst case that we gave you last fall to complete the EIS, which we don't think it will rise to that level, because we don't think there's going to be that many issues we need to address with the EIS. So we'll know more about that, what that number will actually be once we publish the EAW, which we're targeting middle of May to release that EAW for public comment and agency comment. We'll get the comments based on agency response. We'll know what we have to address in the EIS, and we'll be able to give you a firm number on what completing that environmental review will be. 100,000 is in addition to what we've billed you to date, including these invoices as a worst case scenario. And it matches the number that we gave you last fall for a total.
Okay. And then, any updates with where we're at with that grant, that you're working on?
Katie's working on it and we're working to get it done to submit by the deadline.
Okay.
I didn't come prepared to give an update on that, I guess, so.
Oh, no.
You don't, we don't need it, just.
No.
Nope, I think, does that answer?
That,
questions? Okay, thank you, Brian, sorry to interrupt your evening,
No problem.
okay.
Yes, thank you, Brian.
I'm always happy to see folks in Wabasha.
Right.
I am. Sorry.
You can
Thanks.
see all of us on the
Yeah,
screen
see it.
there. Okay, bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
So clear as mud?
Well, I'm glad this has come to a head because I could see it coming for 4 months. I knew this was
Yeah, yeah,
this money from that thing. And the thing, it's 4 acres, not 40. It's, and it keeps been a gravel business for 4 years because they only use up 1 acre at 35 feet a year. So, and it's going to be filled in immediately by the Corps. And so this mining, I mean, what it's costing them to do this, it isn't even worth the mining.
Yeah.
And I'd have hate to see the whole project go under because Sean decided that he's not familiar. I know, he doesn't, like, I know Bob and I know Steve, but Sean, I met him once.
So is
And
he one
he's
of the
taking
sons
over.
or-
He's a son, yeah.
He's the son of Steve.
Well, that was my comment when they first proposed this Beanfield mining. I thought, that's too small to mine. Because, I mean, you're gonna have to go down 20, 25 feet.
30, but they've already done all that. That's what they're spending the money, the environmental.
Yeah, but by the time you slope the size and everything.
No, what they're gonna
you're
do is
actually
take
gonna
out,
mine, it's gonna be
their
pretty
plan
small.
is to take out and fill in as they go. So with the 217, see what I mean? They'll fill, they can go so far. They've done it on they've done it all over. They go to the extreme and then fill in. And you can see it now along Highway 61 towards the plant. They're doing the same thing. They're right up to the
Yep.
road right away. I've walked over and looked at it. And they'll start filling that back in immediately to stable the,
Get it slowed back
and
down.
somehow the state let them do
But I
this.
think- I remember on the mining thing, there was minimum slopes in there.
3 to 1.
Vertical slopes were not permitted
Right.
as is. You'd have to get a special.
3 to 1. Great,
The
3
address
to
is
1.
Their filling is gonna be as the.
3 to 1?
3 to 1.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed how small the bottom of that pit's going to look at a 3 to 1 slope. 38 feet is the depth, which is just keeps us above the groundwater. And we get that from the core well, that's 20 feet away from the property line where the groundwater level is. So anyway, that's been looked at.
Well, Don Brown, he said, yeah, it was worth it to mine it. So I took him at his word,
It's
but
getting
for a
costly.
layman, looking at that, I thought, it's mighty small.
Well, they only go through 40,000 a year, so that's 4 years of
4
operation.
years, it's done.
And it's just a short haul. That's how they're gonna have to do it now, is like ants. I mean, they'll get it out of there.
Yeah.
It takes time.
So there we are
Well, I'm
with,
glad this came to.
with the port, the barge terminal update, costs and everything. We know that, next month we will see, more information from Bolton and Mink. And, I think there's a meeting invite out for our next Port Authority meeting. To be a joint meeting, we'll start early. So,
4:30 start time is what we're proposing, so we
Yeah.
have an hour to workshop, and then 5:30 Kathy could join us, and we'll cover any court business.
That's not in place of our regular meeting.
no,
It's just a special meeting.
but yeah, it's a workshop.
Yeah, yeah.
That'll be a joint one and then so it'll be, which would kind of be a good time. All right, so let's move on. We got the director's report. Where are we at with that? That's a
I think I'll just let everyone
Review.
do that at their leisure.
very good.
Okay.
We talked about joint council.
Mhm.
May 17th is our next meeting. Anything else from anybody? Hearing none, motion.
May 10th,
Well, May 10th is that joint.
May 10th is the joint meeting.
So it got moved at John's request. I'm blaming
Sorry.
John.
That's fine, I don't know.
Is our meeting gonna just follow?
So
Yeah.
John,
So that was good. I think
after
Makes
I
sense, right?
published on Friday, John called and said, due to my my schedule, it would be easier if we slotted it to an existing meeting that I already have. So we made a change.
Right?
So just start
Just
early and do
grab
that
some
ahead of time. That's better than 2 weeks back to back.
Right.
So are we doing a joint, so what's happening on the 17th? I've got 4:30
That's right.
for a
That'll be
joint
the
meeting.
Yes.
And it's the
Nothing on the
10th.
10th.
10th is a
And
cancel.
then after the joint meeting, we have our regular meeting,
Right.
so it's just a longer meeting.
And will I be able to call in on that? Because I'm gonna be up north fishing.
Oh,
Sure, we'll figure it
Because
out.
I figured, well, nothing important is happening.
sorry. Yeah, I just. Yeah, call in, zoom in.
Don't let that-
At all.
Yeah, we should.
Oh, and then, yeah,
Agenda.
yeah, well, it'll be all about port. It'll be.
Right, I think we have to really address all these soon.
All right, so are we good?
Yeah.
Right? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
There you go.
Okay.
Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Post same sign. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Warn an announcement, but I am participating in a Region 10, that's Southeast Minnesota, you can kind of imagine the boundaries of it. Strategy group, planning group, they call us many different things, to eventually develop a regional economic development strategy document. Apparently, Region 10 is the only part of the state that doesn't have a regional economic development authority, so it's a group of many different individuals, including, counties, cities, community development agencies, CETAs at the table, and actually the leadership role, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have any thoughts about economic development that you want to filter into that group, by virtue of this group or your personal, perspective, I think we have 3 meetings throughout 2022, and the next one is, for me, it's July, so you can share with me anything like. Harley